Proposition 21. We have Lourdes Morales presenting this one. Thank you for sticking around.
Absolutely. So to understand Proposition 21, just sort of a bit of background, some California cities today, such as Los Angeles and San Francisco and San Jose, have policies that limit how much landlords can increase rents from year to year. And these policies are generally known as rent control. About 1/5 of California residents live in cities that have some sort of rent control policy in place. Current state law, known as Costa-Hawkins, sets some limits on the local rent control policies that can be put in place. And really, there are sort of three main limitations under this current state law. The first is that rent control cannot apply to single-family homes. The second is that rent control can't apply to homes that were built and completed after February 1st, 1995. And third, rent control can't tell landlords what they charge a new renter when they first move into a property. What Proposition 21 would do is modify these limitations of the current Costa-Hawkins laws in such a way that cities and counties could apply rent control to more properties than under current law. And so the way these limitations are modified by 21 is that cities and counties could apply rent control to most property that's over 15 years of age. They could include single family homes so long as those homes are owned by individuals that have 3 or more properties. And cities and counties could dictate what landlords charge a new renter when they first move in, so long as landlords are able to increase rents by 15% over the first 3 years. So this measure would have a number of effects on state and local revenues, specifically property tax, sales tax, and income tax revenue. The way in which these revenue sources would be affected would really depend on the decisions that local governments take to use this new flexibility in their local rent control policy. So for example, whether cities choose to make no changes at all, cities that don't have rent control could expand their rent control. And so there's a lot of uncertainty here, but overall, we do think that there is a potential reduction in state and local revenue in the high tens of millions of dollars over time. Mostly driven by a reduction in property tax revenues for local governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this was put on the ballot by Michael Weinstein from the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. Support is from the Democratic Party, Green Party, Peace and Freedom are all in support, and the Republicans and Libertarians against. In support, we had the ACLU, Courage California, Housing California, some unions, including the teachers and nurses, and Bernie Sanders. In opposition, we have the California Business Roundtable, the Chamber of Commerce, the NAACP, we talked about that earlier, the Taxpayers Association, Howard Jarvis as well, and also Governor Newsom. He feels like the law that was already passed is good enough. That was his argument. So in support, we have the LA Times, and then we have most of the rest of the newspapers across the state in opposition to this one. So the AIDS Healthcare Foundation gave a huge amount, $28 million. And then we have just smaller amounts from individuals and the nurses and the Democratic Party. And then on the no side, we have, property management, real estate sorts of groups. And there's a lot more money in the opposition because those real estate groups have more money than those other ones do, of course. All right, questions on this one. So a lot of the advertising talks about building new housing. Is there anything in the measure that speaks to that?
So the measure doesn't have any direct effect on whether housing is built or not. It's really just about having this flexibility for local governments to institute their own rent control policies under those parameters that would be expanded. There are a number of sort of economic effects related to the measure, and so one would be an interaction with the decisions that developers, for example, would make on whether it makes sense for them to build new housing under the provisions if the measure were to go into effect. So it certainly could be, but it would really depend on the policies that local governments put into place and how stringent they might be or might not be.
So if there was new housing for the first 15 years, this would not apply, is that right?
That's correct. So under current law, you can't have it on housing that's built after 1995. This would sort of push that date up to 1995. I'm sorry, to 15 years from 1995. So generally 2015.
Okay, thank you so much. Another question, so the proposition gives the rights to the cities and counties to make the changes, and are they automatic and the local government decides to enact them?
Yeah, so nothing would be dictated by Prop 21 specifically. Local jurisdictions, so cities and counties, would have to make their own decisions. So either by actions of city councils or by ballot measures that would be brought on locally to change their existing policies or put new policies in place if they don't have rent control today.
Okay, thank you.